third one, Die Hard with Vengeance, is a driving game. You'll drive through New York and you have to deactivate bombs by crashing into them. And that's basically it. You drive from one bomb to the other, collect nitro boosters, extra time, and try to deactivate the bombs before the time runs out. Now all the games are very arcadey. The graphics are okay, but not great. The sound is very good. Die Hard Trilogy is a very poor movie adaptation and uses almost only the locations and the main character John McClane from the movies. So for me this is an average game, nothing special but fun to play every now and then. Now the second game that came out in 1996 was Die Hard Arcade, and it was also known as Dynamite Deka in Japan, and it was released for the arcades, and in 1997 they released the game for the Sega Saturn, and I've heard they released the game in 2006 for the PlayStation 2, but also only in Japan. It's a 3D beat 'em up. You can punch, you can kick, you can jump, and you can use many weapons. Rocket launcher, machine gun, pistol, axe, pipe, and so on and so on and so on. You can play this game with 1 or 2 player. Except for the main character and the Nakatomi Plaza, this game has nothing to do with the movie. The main story is that you have to rescue the president's daughter. Now I don't own the game or a Sega Saturn yet, but I've played the game back in the days a few times in the arcades and I liked it. The graphics are good, the sound is also okay, and yeah, not bad at all. Now the next game was released in the year 2000. It was Die Hard Trilogy 2, Viva Las Vegas, and it was developed by N-Space and it was released for the PC and the PlayStation 1. I'm gonna make this short because Die Hard Trilogy 2 uses the same concept as Die Hard Trilogy 1. You get 3 different games, a third-person shooter, a light gun shooter, and a driving game. The game has nothing to do with any of the movies. It's got its own story, it has something to do with a prison break. I don't own the game and I never played the game, but as far as I know it's Die Hard Trilogy 1 with better graphics. So this is all that I can say about this game. Now let's come to the last 2 titles that I have, and both titles were released in the year 2002 and both games are first-person shooters. And let's start with this one, with Die Hard Vendetta for the Nintendo GameCube. It was also released in the year 2003 for the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, and it was developed by Bit Studios. Now the game, like I said, is a first-person shooter. The story takes place several years after the third Die Hard movie. The main villain is Pete Gruber, the son of Hans Gruber. He and his men try to steal some paintings from a museum, but they got disturbed by your daughter Lucy McClane, which has also joined the police forces. From there on, Pete and his men take hostages, including your daughter. There starts the game, and from there on you have to rescue your daughter, follow the bad guys through many locations of Los Angeles, and do other objectives to cross their plans. I don't want to spoil anything. Now, typical for a first-person shooter, you fight hordes of bad guys. You get many different weapons. The game also has some stealth elements because you can sneak up on enemies and you can disarm them and arrest them, or you can use them as shields. Also, there are some riddles to solve, and you can talk to almost every person in order to get any clues or any informations. The graphics are average, but they remind me more of a Nintendo 64 game than a GameCube game. The sound is okay. The game has a lot of voice acting and some of them are good and some are bad. But they included the voice of Reginald Feld Johnson, who played Sergeant L. Powell in the first Die Hard movie. So that's cool.
Yeah, I never thought they'd let me back here.
Lucy's still alive. Gruber took her inside a few minutes ago. We haven't heard from him since.
Now to the biggest issue of the game, the controls. They are jerky. Jumping can be very tricky and aiming is really spongy, I would say. Now you have the option to turn on auto jumping or auto aiming to help you, but that takes all the fun of the game. Also, I found that the game was a little bit too linear. I mean, for example, the level with the Nakatomi Plaza. I mean, there are so many doors and every door is locked except for this one door where you have to supposed to go. I mean, yeah. And in the end, it's one thing to fight terrorists and another to fight terrorists and the controls of the game. So for me, this is an average first-person shooter with bad controls, and I wouldn't recommend this game. But if you're still interested, I would suggest that if you have the chance, try it before buy it. Okay? And yeah. Now let's come to the last game. Die Hard Nakatomi Plaza from 2002. The game was developed by Piranha Games and was published by Sierra. This is also a first-person shooter, and I had to record the screen of one of my old laptops in order to get any in-game graphic, because it was the only one which had Windows XP on it, and on every other computer where I tried this game I had some graphic issues, so I'm sorry about that. The game adapts the first Die Hard movie in almost every way, but they added some missions that weren't in the movie to stretch the playtime a little bit. I have to be honest, this is an average first-person shooter. The graphics are average, the sound is also average, the voice acting is not so good, except for John McClane, Hans Gruber and Sergeant L. Paul, again by Reginald Phil Johnson.
While you're jerking my chain on a radio. Now send a police backup ASAP.
You start the game with a Beretta, and soon enough you get an MP5 machine gun from the terrorist. There are a few other weapons in the game, but there is hardly any ammunition for those, so for the most time you have to stick with those two weapons. You have 3 life bars. The first one stands for health, the second for stamina, and the third for morale. The health is self-explanatory. Stamina is simple, when it's full you can run, empty you can't run. And the moral, depending on the level of your morale, it should affect the enemy's AI, but I personally never noticed any difference during the game. Now, Die Hard Nakatomi Plaza is one of the games that you either hate or like. And I personally like this game. I love the atmosphere, I had a lot of fun playing this title, and yeah, for me it's a really cool title. Okay, now this was the last game that I have and that I could think of. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show. Maybe see you next time. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.